Using heartbeats as song bass, right theme song for the ICU.
Intentionally competent.
Providing intensive care for global mind. Tackling war propaganda, power to put global conflicts under the microscope. Exposing the system's lies and hidden hands that keep the war machine alive. From Gaza to Tehran, Washington to Tel Aviv, we dig into the facts, the headlines skip, the history they distort, and the human costs they bury. No political PR, no sanitized sound bites, just raw, verifiable truth, served with moral clarity and zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Here we never rant, we refrain, always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead is your guiding staff. With ICU, may you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. I see you. You not believe, want you know that I do, I want you know that we feel, don't just chew the feel, that there's something we do. And no political bearing, no sanitized sound bites, just raw verifiable truth served with moral clarity, zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Here we never rant, we refrain.
Welcome back to ICU, the space where your inner consciousness is unraveled and de-intentionally competent you emerges with clarity, not coercion. Here in ICU, we don't rant, we reframe. Let me start with a truth I can't stop repeating. I didn't ask for this seat, yet here am I. Still your eternally reluctant therapist to the national and global psyche. Still seated across the couch from Uncle Donald. And now seated from across the global ego, addicted to performance, allergic to reflection. And still choosing to hold space for our collective spiritual rehabilitation. This has never been and will never be armchair therapy. This is critical soul analysis of the systems, the slogans, and the psycho-spiritual myths that keep us loyal to dysfunction. Today's episode is titled, "The Empire is Not Your Father. Deconstructing Patriotism and Power Worship." This episode explores how empire systems have functioned as surrogate fathers, seducing us with protection while severing us from discernment. Let's begin. What is empire? Really? We've heard that word thrown around quite a bit. Let's define our terms. Empire is not just land and legislation. Empire is a psychological formation, a father stand-in for traumatized nations and disoriented souls. Empire promises order over chaos, safety over complexity, legacy over intimacy. But that real offer is more insidious. Obey, and we will protect you. Resist, and you'll be exiled. What are we experiencing in our country? What exactly are we experiencing in our country? Let me go back and read this for you so you actually some stuff start making sense, because let it sit on your nervous system for a little bit. Here's what empire promises you: order over chaos, safety over complexity, legacy over intimacy, But here's the real catcher. Here's the real kicker. Here's that poke to your nervous system. The real offer is more insidious. Obey, and we will protect you. Resist, and you'll be exiled. Do I need to say any more? We are in it. Whether it shows up as Rome, the British crown, the US flag, or the modern evangelical industrial complex, empire becomes God when our nervous systems have no real fathering. And when empire starts to fall and starts to fail and starts to lose its grip, it does what narcissistic fathers do best. Blame the children, raise the stakes, call submission love, acquiesce to my whim, and you are in my realm. I protect you, I keep you safe. But resist, and you're out. No loyalty. So let's examine patriotism as a surrogate parent. Let's name it. In America, patriotism is not a posture. It's a performance. We are taught to salute the flag before we ask questions. Stand for the anthem before we stand for the oppressed. Do you guys remember Colin Kaepernick? What happened to him? Because he had the audacity to speak truth to power and stand for the oppressed versus standing for the flag or the anthem. We are taught to equate God bless America with moral superiority. And when Uncle Donald entered the room with his authoritarian charm, military parades, and law and order mantra, empire cheered. Evangelicals nodded. Subconscious sons and daughters clapped for daddy. Why? It's simple. Because we were trained to conflate proximity to power with protection. Look at that proximity to power. I touched on this in a prior episode. We're all like the richest people in the world. Want that proximity to power. When Trump was inaugurated, look at the billionaires who were standing next to him. Out of what? They're all fragile egos. Protection. We are trained to conflate proximity to power with protection. Because trauma taught us that being near the abuser is safer than being honest about the abuse. That's a classic abused victim's symptom. Being near the abuser is safer than being honest about the abuse. That's why people stay in abusive relationships for decades, and nobody can understand why. It's that simple. So let's examine why we cling to power we know is poisoning us. You can ask any therapist, why does a child strip protect the abusive father? It's straightforward, because it's safer to feel wrong than to feel alone. Because at least I am obedient. I might still be loved. There's still that hope in there. What we are experiencing, this is a state trauma reenactment. The empire becomes a provider. The president becomes the priest. And dissent becomes betrayal, not courage. This is why critique is labeled unpatriotic. And this is why empathy is framed as weakness. And this is why truth is treated like treason. How enlightening. So let's assess God, government, and the great confusion. Let's talk about the spiritual seduction of empire. In many religious systems, God was introduced not as a healer or nurturer, but as a warrior, a judge, a king. So when empire arrives, it doesn't just echo politics, it echoes our spiritual formation. If God is violent and dominant, then so must be our true leaders. If reverence means silence, then so must our citizenship. But in ICU, I want you to listen. The God of empire is not the God of liberation. The father of the nation is not your actual father. And every week, what do? We leverage ICU practices to help us live that higher standards of life, to help us tap into our inner authority by leveraging our personal internal controls. So this week's ICU practice is how do we break up with empire? It's going to be tough. This week, let's begin the hard work of emotional sovereignty. And we do that by first and foremost doing what? Naming the empire you were raised to obey. Was it nationalism? Was it religious supremacy? Was it corporate capitalism? Or was it respectability politics? Which one of those? And several others that I haven't even named. Write the name. Say it out loud. Break that trance. We have to map that loyalty loop. You ask yourself this: where do I stay silent to stay safe? When do I perform allegiance to avoid exile? We have to redefine belonging. We must write a new creed. Here's an example. I belong to a kingdom that centers truth over tradition. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with tradition, but every sustainable tradition must be based on truth. And we can all see this. Now they're trying to rewrite history. Remove key historical facts from museums because they don't align with what empire wants. Try to whitewash slavery, whitewash the importance of African Americans in this great country. Try to whitewash the importance of Native Americans to this great country. Try to whitewash the importance of brown and dark-skinned individuals to this country. The truth always prevails. We might not see it clearly now, but the truth always prevails. I belong to a kingdom that centers truth over tradition. My loyalty is to the flourishing of all and not the comfort of a few. That communal spirit as taught to us by African traditions. It takes a village. Say goodbye. Close your eyes and whisper, Empire, you are not my father. I am no longer afraid to live without your approval. These are all practices all of us have to engage in to get the result and the country we want. And let me say this plainly in closing. The empire is not your father. The nation is not your parent. The state is not your soul's shepherd. If you feel grief in this moment, good. That's your freedom calling. Because on the other side of patriotic idolatry is a conscience reborn, a self restored, a citizen who cannot be bought. Let that sit on your nervous system. Can you be bought? Revel in that for a second. Thank you for joining me this week in ICU. Next week in ICU, we'll examine when prophets protect power, spiritual bypassing, and the theology of silence. Until then, remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking forward with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead as your guiding staff. Please remember to subscribe, share, like, engage with us. May you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. And always breathe. But never forget to keep sending love to your nervous system. I see you.
Using heartbeats as song bass, right theme song for the ICU.
Contextually competent.
Providing intensive care for global mind. Tackling war propaganda, power to put global conflicts under the microscope. Exposing the system's lies and hidden hands that keep the war machine alive. From Gaza to Tehran, Washington to Tel Aviv, we dig into the facts, the headlines skip, the history they distort, and the human costs they bury. No political PR, no sanitized sound bites, just raw, verifiable truth, served with moral clarity and zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Hearing never ends, we refrain always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead as your guiding staff with ICU. May you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. I see you. You not believe, want you know that I do, I want you know that we feel, don't just chew the field, but something we do. And no politically bearing, no sanitized sound bites, just raw verifiable truth served with moral clarity, zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Here we never rest, we refrain always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead as your guiding staff with ICU. May you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. I see you. We never ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Here we never end, we refrain always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead as your guiding staff. With ICU, may you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. I see you.